The three things that guarantee that Bitcoin will win are: one, humans are sinful and they're never going to stop printing money; two, we're not going back to barter; and three, Bitcoin has superior monetary properties and greater credibility of those monetary properties than anything else that exists in the world. Let's unpack each of those. One, you could make money work, just fiat currency, which is government made up currency, if humans were perfect. Because if humans were perfect, they would not allow the supply of the US dollars to exceed population growth or GDP growth or, whatever metric they decided to use. But that's not true. They will never stop doing that. Humans will never stop. If you give them a magic money printer, they will never stop coming up with excuses to print too much money, emergencies, so-called, that require them to print too much money. They will never stop doing that. Never in human history have humans been able to be entrusted with a magic money printer where they did not magically print more money with a million different reasons and excuses. So number one, if humans remain sinful, meaning they do bad things given bad incentives, then that's the first sort of key thing that makes you know that Bitcoin will win. If humans were perfect, there'd be a lot of monetary systems that we could use. But humans are not perfect. So you got to use one that does not require trust in humans to be perfect. And Bitcoin is that system. So that's number one. Humans are sinful. Number two, we're not going back to barter. A modern economy absolutely cannot work for barter. With barter. Now, that doesn't mean you can't show up to a farmer's market and swap a chicken for a dozen eggs or something like that. But you can't run a modern economy. You can't build a house, build a car, build an iPhone, run the internet on barter. That's ridiculous. Nobody thinks that works. We're not going back to barter. Barter only works in an extremely primitive economy where the total population size within a clan or within an area is, less than 150 people. As soon as you get past that, the economy very quickly gets too complex to run on a barter system. So we're not going back to barter. So if you think we're going back to barter, well, then that's kind of like arguing with a flat earther. If somebody believes the earth is flat and they just won't let go of that belief, it is kind of hard to teach them about astronomy, for example, or physics, because the earth is just not flat. So we're not going back to barter. That's number two. Then number three, Bitcoin has superior monetary properties to anything else. Because of number one, we know we can't go back to just using or continue to just use fiat currencies, made up, government printed out of thin air, stored on a digital database that humans can just manipulate any way they want. We know that that is not viable, and gold is not viable. Gold cannot be sent over the internet. You cannot use gold in a modern economy without reintroducing all of the problems of fiat currency. Because even if we went back to a gold standard, the problem with a gold standard is that the gold standard does not involve using actual gold. You can't use gold to buy things because it's not divisible enough. It's too hard to move large amounts of gold around. It's too hard to secure. It's too hard to verify that the yellow metal is actually gold and not fool's gold, or that it's not tungsten with a gold veneer on the outside. The only way you know gold is gold for sure is by melting it down and recasting it. Or if you can get pretty close, if you have a $50,000 spectrometer, electromagnetic, whatever spectrometer, that will tell you more or less that, what is being measured is gold. But again, it's hard to do that. Every gas station is not going to buy a $50,000, spectrometer. And even if they did, it still doesn't work because the gold's not divisible enough. When you're done paying for gas and it costs $57.27, what are you going to do? Shave little particles of gold off a coin until it adds up to $57.27? It's just completely non-viable. Even if you introduce silver, it's still completely non-viable. So anyway, we're not going back to gold. If gold, any country that thinks they're going to redenominate their currency on gold, the only people who think that's going to work is the government. And the government thinks that's going to work because they know it's not. They know it's not going to work, but what they plan to do is claim that they have enough gold to back the currency, and therefore everyone should trust the fiat currency. So essentially, as fiat currencies start to break, governments buy up a bunch of gold, which is happening right now, primarily China. And what they do, they don't plan to go to gold. What they plan to do is convince their population that it's safe to use their currency because their currency is sitting on top of a gold reserve. Well, again, we know that from every example throughout human history where that has ever been tried, the government always makes more of the currency than they have of the gold, and then always eventually breaks the gold standard. It happens 100% of the time. So the only people who think the gold standard might work are people who don't understand the history of the gold standard, or governments who use it as a way to entice people to use their currency before they pull a bait and switch and tell them that, after all, the gold is not actually backing the currency because they printed too much of the currency, which happens literally 100% of the time. So that's all you have to believe. If you want to know that Bitcoin's going to win, there are 3 ways you can know it's going to win. Because if humans will remain sinful, and if we're not going back to a barter economy, and if Bitcoin has better monetary properties than any other alternative, then Bitcoin wins. It is that simple. And Bitcoin does have better monetary properties. It is more divisible. It is more durable. It is more portable. It is more fungible. It can be sent over the internet, unlike any other, certainly any other, there's no other scarce commodity that can be sent across the internet. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. Nobody can make more. Nobody's in charge of Bitcoin. Huge chunks of the internet can go down, just like Amazon Web Services, which went offline yesterday, and it took out a bunch of major websites, including Amazon. A bunch of websites and a bunch of major online services lost. Basically, they just went down because they were all relying on a massive Amazon Web Services product data center cluster, and that all went down due to a bug. But of course, Bitcoin kept chugging along, processing blocks every 10 minutes, doing its magical thing. So Bitcoin doesn't need all that. And so Bitcoin has superior monetary properties because it is more divisible, more durable, more fungible, more authenticatable, recognizable. It is more, scarce, and it has every other property of an ideal money, more so than anything else. So as long as we're not going back to barter, and as long as humans remain sinful, and as long as Bitcoin has superior monetary properties, which won't change based on all of the videos I've done about why Bitcoin's monetary properties will never be outcompeted by anything else, if you know those things, then you know Bitcoin's going to win, which means you're holding a lottery ticket and just waiting for it to play out. And a bunch of us are in that position. And for those of us who have been in Bitcoin for enough time, like me, part of that winning lottery ticket has played out, because I have more than tripled my entire net worth, liquid net worth. That doesn't count like private company stock investments and stuff like that. But for everything in my portfolio that is liquid, meaning represented by stocks, bonds, US dollar cash, anything that I could possibly buy and sell, that is 100% Bitcoin. I don't own any stocks or bonds, and I own almost zero US dollar cash. Basically, the only balances I keep are tiny balances so I don't bounce a check to a babysitter if they don't accept Bitcoin or something like that. So Bitcoin will win in the end, and it's just, we're holding winning lottery tickets, we're waiting for it to play out, and it's just a matter of patience, which is the same with every other investment on the planet. It is mostly just a game of patience. So here we are. Be patient. You've already won.